What's up, everyone? Welcome to week 17 of Rainmakers. My name is Theric. I'm here with the usual suspects, Jake and JJ, and we have Ruthless filling in for Poopaloop today. How's it going, everyone?
It's going good, going good. Winding down towards the end of the season. Got some playoff scenarios live here, and I'm sure everyone has some sort of sweat, whether it's season long or best ball. So I'll let you talk about that, Jake. Don't you got a big sweat this coming weekend?
Yeah, how we doing? Got a nice best ball tournament championship. It's the $1 million tournament on DraftKings. 200K to first, 54 people left.
Sheesh.
So yeah, should be fun. Nice little sweat, and obviously we got a bunch of, like every week, we got some sweats and Rainmakers too. So yeah, excited. I see. Ruthless also brought a friend there, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I got it a couple days ago. I figured I'd make use of Jimmy and this super plastic full doll. Just say what's up, and yeah, I actually made it to round 3 of with your the same tournament you're in. I had no idea that it was 54 people in the final round. I think I got like third last week or whatever, and so I didn't make it. But like that is a lot of equity that you have currently, for the I will probably like 500-600K in prizes given out. That's unreal.
I want to say that Underdogs is similar to that, where it's only a few hundred people that are left in the final round.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting in, you're already making some good profit.
Yeah, I think it says like the EV of it when I won last week is like 11,500 probably EV.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, speaking of big wins and sweats, one of our main contributors, Relic CK, just had a huge win on NBA DFS last night. Took down the 100K contest and just absolutely crushed it. Was sweating just a little bit, but it didn't seem to be too bad towards the end, and just had to scream hold long enough for him to cash that.
Hell yeah. Big shout out to Relic, MBHQ team member, and also producing the show behind the scenes here. So huge shout out to Relic. That's an awesome hit. I think it was like total of like 120K won last night. So I mean that's amazing. Hopefully one of us can win, can continue on here and take home 100K as well.
We've come close
this week.
We've come so close.
Take down that elite championship.
Yeah, it was. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping I can at least get the 10K and make not be so far in the red with Rainmakers. But I know some of us have already made some decent profit. I think JJ's in the green so far for the season, and so at least some of us are doing really well.
Yeah, I had to cut my portfolio this week just for tax reasons. I would have rather held, but took quite a bit of losses there just on top of profits. But I had a good season. Probably 15K from Rainmakers, 25K from the whole season and bets, and DFS. So it's been a good season.
So speaking of portfolio management, Jake and Ruthless, what are you guys doing as far as portfolio? Are you selling off? Or are you just holding on? Are you thinking about next season at all? What's your plans?
I mean, yeah. I really have kind of just been stagnant. I think at some point, maybe like we'll say week 9 or 10, I stopped really making big purchases and selling here and there. I've kind of, it's more like, when something comes around, back when they were doing the prize packs and stuff, it was like really important. Like I actually, or I think I'm kind of like finding spots, like let's say when Mitch Trubisky got his one, start 2 weeks ago, I immediately sold my legendary at whatever I could.
Yeah,
it's like an interesting, like I don't mind holding, but also when there's spots like that, you have to sell. You have to find it, and like Teddy Bridgewater early in the year, I had a Kyler Murray legendary that I was lucky enough to rip. And then he literally got put on the IR.
Yeah.
So, like I'm mostly holding because I still kind of want to play the playoffs. and I'll be selling kind of slowly the next week or so. But and honestly, things are cheap. You know, if you really wanted to, I actually just saw Tariq Hill get listed at Elite for $300, which is like, yeah, I mean that's like. I think people are panicking because of Teddy Bridgewater, but that's not really that big of a drop off.
It's not just that, though. I mean, I definitely was one who was cutting under 300. It's like the reason I say it's a tax reason for me is it's unclear whether cards are counted as wagers and entries, right? So if they aren't, then you're liable for all your wins, and you can't write off the loss of the cost of your cards. So that way, like let's say I invested 20K and then I won 20K. In that scenario, I would still owe 10K, right? So that's one of the reasons I'm cutting this close. I should have sold last week and took 2 weeks off, but I think that I've salvaged quite a bit of value there. So yeah, you're right though. It's a perfect time if you are looking to get into, maybe for a week or two or playoffs, to make a playoff bound team and get in for cheap.
Yeah, and if you're in the red, it doesn't really matter too much because your investment is way more than the profits that you've made. But especially if you've been winning and doing well, it's a good time to think about whether or not you want to harvest that. Just because, like you said, JJ, it's just unclear whether or not we can count this the same way we do regular DFS, especially since the cards can be used more than just once. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, tax law hasn't really caught up to all the stuff we're doing in this space. And so the safe approach is to assume that it won't be counted the same and sell off.
But yeah, to your point, Ruthless, like there's some amazing deals. Like this is, I think, the perfect time, maybe this week, next week, and maybe even the week after, to look for low serials of cards you think you can use next season, right? So I'm talking like Cooper Kupps, like Tyreek Hills, because you will be able to use them next year in these. I think they said 100K in prizes every week plus 10% of the elite to Rainmaker tier in cards given to the 2022 exclusive contest. So serials will matter tremendously in those, as we've seen in all these showdowns, right? So I'm looking to pick up some of these low serials that are getting built.
Yeah, so just real quick, I saw Al Smizzle, who's he's an MVHQ member. He's got his own little great Twitch stream going. He got 24, I think, in the serial on Rainmakers, and someone had 25, and it legit was a 15K swing, I think. So I mean, it's crazy. It gets really crazy at the top.
Yeah, I think I'm the best example of that. An 80K swing on a tie of a different lineup. But hey, that's what they say. Any edge is an edge, and I think that edge is one of the most overlooked.
Indeed.
I will add, as we were talking about maybe gearing up a little bit for next season as well, is they are doing a burn, right? They said they're going to burn for 10% of the supply of at least the elite through Rainmaker of the 2023s. So, and they haven't said like how that burn is going to work yet, but I would anticipate like they probably won't tier it at all based on the players themselves. So something I plan to do is buy up a lot of these like just the cheapest cards of whatever tier, right? Which I think there's not a lot of urgency to do right now because there's some more of the season left. Like these prices probably will fall a little bit more than what they're at right now. But something to think about, if you can get these elites for like less than $10 or less than maybe even like $5 and less, like stacking up some of these in preparation for the burn for next year is probably going to be a pretty plus EV play if you're able to at least time the bottom a little bit here.
Yeah, on the note of serials, I just kind of want to ask you guys, like I kind of have developed my own valuation for low serials as the season's progressed, things that I've learned. But how would you guys value, like, let's say, a top 10 versus just a floor moment? Let's say it's 30 to 50 for elite, or like, 200 to 1,000, right? I kind of have my own valuation in my head, but I'm curious what you guys think going into next season.
At least for me, it's kind of all or nothing as far as cereals go. The kind of paying for the middle, like the hundreds and everything like that, doesn't seem to really put you ahead. It's really, you got to get low, top 50, top 10, especially in the showdown slates, where even having I notice in rare, like if I'm part of a train and I have a score of 250, I'm probably in the middle of the train. So you really need under 100 for the entire 4 cards to get first in that train. So unless you're playing super unique lineups, and if you're going for unique, that's probably the better time where you can save some money. But as far as like the Tyreek Hills and everything, the top 10s, I'd value them a lot more than a floor, just because if they are the person you need, you're going to need a high serial, and you're probably not playing all that unique if you're playing a bunch of really good players. So
yeah, so let's put a multiplier in it then. For you, what would you say?
Probably 3x would be my ceiling, 2 to 3x. I wouldn't go crazy, just because it's still really hard to win these contests. You're going to see weird players go up to the top. Even if you buy the best serials of all the top 10 rankings at the beginning of the season, you may not win the entire season, and so you may have spent a bunch of money that you shouldn't have. So I'd probably put like a 2 to 3x multiplier of whatever the floor is. One thing I would say is think about buying the serials, the really low serials of those players that maybe only win you 1 or 2 weeks, but aren't going to be studs throughout the season, because usually those are the players that come out of nowhere. The Zay Jones, the
Evan Ingram's,
Evan Ingram, stuff like that. Where
all Jacksonville.
I got a number one.
Yeah,
I got a number 1 Ingram at Elite, so I'm holding that for next year.
And the low serials were still probably incredibly cheap at the beginning of the season. So if I was shooting for truly low serials, I would go after those. And the other thing to think about is a lot of times when you're playing the showdown slates, the chalk lineup isn't going to win. You're going to need, like last night, you needed Dalton Schultz to win, and he was way cheaper than the chalk lineup. So trying to go for those guys that aren't going to hit very often, but in showdown may be who you need. That's who I'd be shooting at for the really low serials, and then just kind of get something medium wise for the rest.
But so Derek, I agree with your valuation, but I actually have 2 things. One, real quick, it's kind of funny because if you go for Schultz, you might actually not need the low serials because you have a less chance to do it. So it's kind of like a fine line. But I agree. Like I think is still not too far off the beaten path. But if you're like finding like a Noah Brown or whatever, and then he's actually the guy you need, like you don't need to really.
Yeah, and that's a good point. When it's like the second tier guys, you probably still may need the serial. But yeah, if you're going for a Noah Brown to catch 3 passes for 100 yards and 2 TDs or something like that, yeah, you can buy floor and nobody's going to have it. Or if you do something weird like stick if you stuck Dalton Schultz in the captain spot, if you're doing something weird with the captain spot, if you weren't doing Dak or CeeDee Lamb in the captain and you were doing Schultz instead, which a lot of people would be scared to do, then you're probably not going to need that low of a serial, because just by sticking him in the captain, you're probably a pretty unique lineup.
Yep.
Yeah. I gotta say though, I think I'm paying up anyway for these 2nd and 3rd tier players, because it's not much of a difference for the low serials usually, unless it's out of 10 or something. Yeah. But you remember, Derek, there was one showdown where I thought I had a completely unique lineup, and then someone duped me. They're higher than me. It's like, how are you playing this lineup right now?
But one thing that Derek kind of made me think about was I think 2 to 3x is a good kind of valuation. Maybe that's around where you are, JJ. But going higher for, let's say, like the Chiefs or the Bills are not going to get, one of them's not going to get the bye.
Yeah.
But I think we could say that there's a good chance that's going to be the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
So getting and I think there's going to be. I mean, I don't know the format. I think they're probably not going to do showdown for every game, but they may. And then once you get to the 2nd round the 3rd round of the playoffs, like you're going to have showdowns for those teams, and then you're going to get the Super Bowl. So maybe for like, some of the more elite teams, the multiplier on like a Josh Allen may be higher.
Yeah, and even if it's 2-game, 3-game slates, we've seen dupes in those plenty of times. So I think it matters. And just like you said, I'm kind of at the same valuation at the core and rare, especially elite. I think I'm up to 50% for the lower ones, and I think I pay even a higher premium for number ones, right? Just because I think going into all of these, it's continuous value throughout the season. You're kind of giving up equity by playing an optimal lineup which has terrible cereals because you cannot possibly get first place. And so I found myself over the season constantly thinking, man, I should have bought lower. Man, I should have bought lower. Like, because there's these teams with multiple showdowns, right? And you're like, fuck, if I just bought it 5 games ago, I'd be fine for this one too. So, and then, going into the playoffs, it's going to be the same kind of feeling, right? Like, man, my Mahomes number 4, like that one's proven super solid for me, right? I don't got to worry about that. But if I had a Mahomes like 30, it's like, I got to play some, Isaiah Pacheco or, some Mecole Hardman in there to get different. So, but yeah, thanks. Jake, I don't know if you had an opinion because I know you've been playing showdowns as well.
So something as you guys were talking, I kind of thought about more was, I think it's a good opportunity right now to start stacking. Like if you have strong feelings on who you think is going to be, in the Super Bowl, or even in like the divisional, or even in like the the semifinals, divisional round, or whatever they call it, divisional championship, because Rainmakers is doing $1 million per slate, right?
Per round,
week, right? So if you think about it, the Super Bowl, that's like a showdown with like, I don't know, elite. I don't know how much money that's going to be in elite. Maybe like $250 contest,
crazy,
just for like a showdown. So like the cereals are going to matter so much for especially the semifinals, and then definitely in the Super Bowl. So if you can start now and like really start lasering focused on, all right, I need to get like the really low cereals for these guys on this team and these guys on this team, and if you can like successfully predict what the matchup is going to be, and you have the low cereals for that, like there's going to be some real opportunity to make money come playoff time. So that's definitely something I'm now that I think about it, I'm going to definitely start playing towards as we gear up towards the end here.
Yeah, and with that said, I'm looking at the marketplace. There's a Mahomes Elite at the floor, number 2. Possible Super Bowl berth for them. But onto the marketplace segment. Derek, you want to take us through the market?
I have a feeling it's not going to be there by the time we
So let me bring it up so we have a little bit better or a little bit deeper of a discussion on the marketplace itself. You want to give us kind of an overview of what's going on in the marketplace this week, and which, like as you were saying, it seems to be prices are still dropping for a lot of the popular players.
Yeah, man. As you can see, the stratification continues between the playoffs and the play nuts, right? So you see the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals all clearly at the top. I think Justin Fields is up there just because of the cupcake matchup this week with the Detroit Lions. It's going to be really, really hard to get off that game. Last time that they played, it went off for like 1 million points. So hard to see it going any differently this time, with both defenses getting absolutely destroyed. Lions giving up over 300 rushing yards alone last week. Sorry, Jake, but they need to fix some Swiss cheese defense over there. But lots of retraction, right? We've seen Josh Allen, probably the leader at the elite tier, fall down over $400 just because that equity, that expected value is drying up, right? Some of these Super Bowl contenders, again, you're going to think that they probably will rest next week. So that's actually a game taken away rather than a game added for making the playoffs, right? So that's something that also kind of is mixed in. And then as soon as that team gets busted out of the playoffs, then the prices are going to drop like a brick, right? So just seeing those guys lead the charge, Jamar Chase, obviously the Swiss Army knife at the elite, the rare, and the core tier that you can just play up, and probably the best play up option. And so other than that, nothing really exciting jumping out. I thought we would see, Gardner Minshew pop up more, but again, people are just kind of being a little more risk averse towards the end of the season and getting rid of their holdings.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm noticing too. Is they're still just seeing a slow decline every single week. There's just been one really huge drop, but it seems to be the one thing I was surprised about is they dropped the floor sale price to 20 cents from $1 this week, but there's not a huge significant drop in anything above core, even with that pricing. So I feel like people aren't panic selling anything above core and are just trying to get things to sell at a core tier.
Yeah, and on that note, it's a good time to watch the market, right? If you can pick up any Genesis at 20 cents, I think that's really worth it if you're a franchise core player, right? Genesis gets 5x, right? Yeah, 5x multiple. Even Elevate, I think, gets 3x, and Holiday gets 3x as well. So those at 20 cents might be a good scoop up if you want to build up your franchise score. And I think it'll be relevant going into next season and the seasons going forward.
Mm-hmm. So as far as weekly goes, you mentioned we're seeing some significant drops on the players that are making the playoffs and the ones that aren't making the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one that sticks out is obviously Derrick Henry, right? As the biggest loser because, man, the Titans, 6 straight losses now? And, of course, this game is sort of meaningless because it all comes down to next week when the Jacksonville Jaguars play the Titans. And, this team that started 7-3 could potentially bubble out of the playoffs, right? So it's kind of wild to see that. And then on the other side of the coin, you see Travis Etienne going up because the playoff chances get higher, and he's got a good matchup this week as well. Teddy Bridgewater highlighting the top just because Tua probably done for the season. Third concussion, unfortunate. They should just take him out already. Think about his long-term career, and just kind of hope Bridgewater gets you there. He's played playoff games before, so no stranger to that. And then George Kittle. Probably the top tight end outside of Kelsey, right? Going up to 36 points last week or something nuts. And I think with Purdy, the guy who needs a safety net, and with that big body there, that should be a good pickup going into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm seeing too. Obviously, we saw some little injury stuff, but Tua and Henry just make complete sense. And Devontae Adams makes sense as well because it's clear that they're not going to make the playoffs, and honestly, we don't know what the future of that franchise is going to be. So people are just getting out of Devontae Adams while they still can. But other than that, people seem to be pretty smart. They're making what looks like pretty expected decisions as far as paying up goes. Zeke pumped because Tony Pollard was out for the showdown, and so people had to get on Zeke to get some good scoring. Although I don't know if he was in the winning lineup, but I don't believe he was. But people still wanted to take that chance that they were just going to use him as a bell cow, so they paid up for that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sorry. That I don't know why I'm getting distracted on the Zeke thing, but Titans they're at home and they're still not a bad run defense. So maybe that was a little bit of noise. I took it as that.
So with the prices fluctuating still and still making a little bit of sense, do you guys see anyone these last 2 weeks that is worth a buy or anything? At least for me, it's been becoming harder and harder to see people that I really want to snatch up as far as underpriced player goes. But I don't know if any Jake, JJ, Ruthless, if you guys are seeing anything on your end that makes you really want to snap up a player.
Yeah, I think that some of these tight ends are still kind of undervalued, right? And we've seen some of the kind of smash slates. TJ Hawkinson's one of them. right now at 155. Probably a good candidate to win you a week in the playoffs. Maybe even this week, last 2 weeks, he's put up monster scores. So just somebody that I think you'd want exposure to, and relatively on the cheap side, just because tight ends tend to be undervalued, as we've seen over the course of the season.
JJ, if you could buy a Mark Andrews for cheaper than TJ Hawkinson, would you do that? Because that's what you can do right now. $100 for Mark Andrews.
I've gotten
supposed to be coming back.
Who'd have thought?
Going through the playoffs, like I think you just gotta hope that maybe they start cooking like we've been hoping the entire season.
Yeah, I would if there was more of a difference in the price, right? I see at elite tier, Mark Andrews is like 150. I'd say 100. I'd be interested. 110.
That's crazy considering our expectations for the year.
I know. I bought one like at $900 or something, and it just completely flatlined for me. So one of those where I know the talent's there, and as soon as Lamar's back, like there's literally no one else to throw to. So I expect if they do make the playoffs and push through, I think they're guaranteed to make the playoffs. Actually, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that once he's back, I think that it's a good pickup. So maybe you want to kind of split your exposure there and pick up a Mark Andrews and a TJ Hawkinson. Now, if there was a good serial Mark Andrews at the floor versus just a regular TJ Hawkinson, then I'll go with the Mark Andrews.
I actually like. I feel like I talk about Mike Evans every other freaking week, but they're guaranteed to make the playoffs. He's I think he's $200. Godwin's $260. I think it's possible he may have regressed, just like, hashtag getting old there. But still, I believe that he is going to have some positive touchdown regression at some point, like whether it's this week or next or beginning of the playoffs. Like I swear it has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, his air yards are ridiculous, right? And he just either drops the touchdown or gets, pass interference calls against him, but he hasn't had one since I think week 4 or something. And he's dropped plenty and gotten fouled out of plenty.
Panthers, we all remember that one. It was like a game. It changed the entire course of the day and maybe their season. They lost that game.
Yeah, he seems to be cursed. It's really annoying.
Yeah. But I like the call there. I think he's at like $100 or something. They do have the danger of not making the playoffs, which I guess is kind of keeping his price down. Just because that division completely sucks and someone's going to make it in with 7 wins or something. But yeah, like the call there.
What about you, Jake? Do you see anybody that you're itching to grab?
I don't know about itching to grab, but I do like. I brought this up in our spaces earlier, actually, yesterday with Lucky Trader. But I like where Drake London is at right now, and it's kind of an interesting one because they're not going to make the playoffs, but he is super cheap. He's only $44 in elite, $6 in rare, and $1 in core. And he's got a lot bigger target share now that he has Ritter throwing in the ball. And they're actually passing it a little bit more. And he's a guy who's a super young, high draft pick talent who, these rookies, usually they take another step in their second year as well. And so you'll have him from next year, which you'll be able to play him all next year. And he's super cheap right now. You'll get at least 2 games out of it. You'll get maximum 2 games out of him this year. So I like him at least a cheap little option to finish out the regular season. And then you'll have him for next year. And I think he should be a real nice piece for you to be able to compete in these 2022 contests for next year.
To your point, Jake, it's $80 to get a Desmond Ritter, Drake London stack right now at Elite.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not terrible. I don't know about Desmond Ritter's prospects, but I do like Drake London a lot.
I mean, yeah, if you want to, if you're betting on the growth.
Yeah, he's got a nice matchup this week. He plays Arizona, and then Tampa Bay is not is like okay average matchup to finish out the season, and then The guy who I got is my overvalued is DJ Moore. The Panthers are about 30% chance to make the playoffs, so not great. He's still $70 for an elite, $9 for rare, and $1.50 for core. And it's not like he has great matchups. I mean, he has New Orleans and Tampa Bay, and both those are pretty slow paced, game environments as well. And like they're like okay, I think they're on the average side of pass defense as well. So it's nothing special. He's still like not super cheap. So I would probably offload right now since you're not getting him for much more.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I've been saying Drake London for the last 2 weeks. He almost caught a touchdown last week, which would have probably put him in the top lineups. But he's talented, and I think if there's any weeks to take shots, like if you just wanted to throw $100 at a lineup in elite, and then late swap into a better one if it pops off, I think this week and next week are the weeks to do it. Right? You can start with a pretty cheap core. Let's say Fields at rare, Drake London at elite, and then a bring back cheap at elite, and then if it pops off, you just swap into Justin Jefferson and someone else from the late games. But just if you get the leverage, you play it, and if you don't, you just abandon the lineup.
So one thing that we wanted to bring up that is something that DraftKings is going to do once again on week 18 is they're going to swap up the superstar players. And I think it's to make it so some teams aren't as easy to build for the playoffs. But quickly, do you guys see anyone that you think would like become a superstar? As far as quarterbacks, the only one I could think of would be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's the painful one right there.
Yeah.
Make him a superstar. And looking at the scoring, I think it's all but guaranteed, man.
He's been crushing it. They will probably make the playoffs based on next week's game. And so that's who I'm seeing for a quarterback. Running back, the problem with
quarterback too, like Herbert might lose his tag.
Yeah, that's the other one. He's right on the edge, and it's just been so frustrating trying to play him with Eckler, who's the number one running back on the season. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see him. But as far as running backs go, I don't see anyone that would stick out as a have to make a superstar. I mean, Pollard's had a good season. Aaron Jones had a good season, but I don't feel like they've been dominant enough to really warrant them being a superstar. The only reason I would see them doing that is because there's no other superstars for those teams currently. And if they want to make it more competitive, they would just put a superstar on all the teams, which would be Pollard and Jones right now. Or they can move CD. Now that CD's starting to look like a superstar, they can move him back in.
Right.
Because he's fifth right now. And they took him out because he was having such a poor start to the season. But he's been crushing it lately, putting up some monster scores. And so I could see him being reallocated to superstar once again. And they can't do Diggs. We know that.
They can't do Chase.
They can't do Chase. And so... I don't see that changing at all.
Possibly. It might go to Chase instead of Burrow.
Oh, man. Imagine how many people would get pissed off.
Yeah, people would be so
furious. It was injury. That's why he got it.
That's true. It is true.
There could be, if the Lions make the playoffs, I could see Amon-Ra getting added there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering about him. They only have I think it's a 20% chance according to 538.
Yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it would be so hard to build these differently, I guess, if you go into the playoffs, right? Because you pretty much have 5 non-superstar receivers to pull from, right?
Yeah.
That are not studs. Like you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Chase, and then who else? T. Higgins, maybe Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
5, and then the rest are superstars, right? So
Kelsey's never getting in.
Kelsey.
So looking forward not only into the playoffs but to the upcoming week, Jake, do you want to pull up the graphics, and do you guys have any favorite stacks coming up this week that you really want to focus on? There's a few games that are sticking out, but I didn't know if you guys had any
I have
reference.
one that I didn't, like you were talking about on the Lucky Trader Spaces yesterday, that I really wanted to say and just never got the opportunity.
Yeah.
The Chargers. I think that this, like, it's kind of like maybe it's another Mike Evans thing, and I'm just going to keep losing money. But like 2 weeks ago, I went heavy on the Chargers. It was versus the Titans. It was a perfect spot. They're at home. They're ready.
Oh man,
and
yeah.
We just all lost money because they did not. Somehow, Herbert still made 300 had 300 yards passing. Didn't have a touchdown. I think he had a couple interceptions. But I just think that this, like, the Rams team, the defense is not the same. Baker's like, I mean, they're coming off a 51-point game. Obviously, you can't expect that to happen again. But I just think like Chargers are eventually going to put it together like they did last season, with their insanely talented offense. Keenan is looking great, and I think they're just kind of like that. This is a game where they could just kind of be firing on all cylinders. And I would just love to see that come. I mean, honestly, it could be the highest scoring game on the slate. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but like I think the over-under's a bit too low.
Yeah, I love that call. I definitely am more on the Chargers side, though. I think the Rams definitely going to underperform expectations this week, in my opinion. But yeah, the Chargers, it doesn't matter. They've shown that they'll put up points on anybody in seasons past. And, things are just finally starting to click, just like you said. So love that call. Love that call.
That was Jimmy's call. I just was
Jake, what do you see?
Yeah, it's hard not to say the Bears Lions, right? Like it's very clearly the top game on the slate. Like if you look through all these, besides Vikings Packers, gets a little close with that 48 over under here, but Bears Lions 52.5, just far and away the best game environment here. And there's some nice ways you can play this. Unfortunately, on the Bears side, there's not really any receivers that you can go to. It's really just Herbert. Maybe if you want to try out with Kmet, he has had one blow up game this year, and then maybe if you want to try David Montgomery, but Herbert's back now, so I don't know if he really has a ton of upside there. Although the Lions did just get absolutely gashed on the ground against the Carolina Panthers.
Jesus Christ.
Just a ridiculous. Yeah. So if you want to like take a shot at Montgomery or even Herbert, now that he's healthy, I think that's at least viable, especially DFS.
Yeah.
But Lions side of things, like it's really all systems go here for Goff and Amon-Ra, as well as this again, like it's another tough running back situation with Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift, or you don't really know who's going to really pop off, and then they mix in Justin Jackson for some reason as well in that offense. So I think Chark's definitely viable as well. He's had some nice games. He has a very high ADOT. He's getting targeted downfield, and this is an indoor environment at home. Goff plays well at home, so some nice options in this game. Should be heavily owned, but it's also Rainmaker, so ownership doesn't ever get away from you.
Yeah. It's hard to get off the chop games for me as well, like the Bears and the Viking team, two of my favorite games. But one that I'll have pieces on from when I'm taking shots is the Cardinals Falcons, right? I'll have some combos of like Connor, Drake, London, or like Algier, Hopkins, or things like that. Just try to like swap into maybe a quarterback from the late slate, like Herbert or something like that. Just have some combos from that early ones, and if it doesn't work out, just kind of trash it.
Yeah. For me, it's just going to be probably trying to do a Chiefs stack again. If I can figure out who the Chiefs are going to go to, and hopefully get a double stack working for once. The spread's really bad, but we saw last time these two teams played that Mahomes still put up a really good score. And so that's who I will probably try and sneakily focus on, although I'm sure everybody will be on Mahomes as well.
Yeah, it's been so tough to guess who's going to get it, right? 1 week it's McCall Hardman for 4 touchdowns. Another week it's McKinnon. Another week it's Juju Smith-Schuster. It's been really difficult to predict on that team.
Okay, so the final thing I wanted to discuss this week was the lineup challenge, something that we've been working on most of the season. And it's gotten to the point where there's been some good overall macro looking on it, and determined that it is really hard to make a profit with just putting in so little money. And we've had over the season, we've had the teams that we've been playing, the players split up. So probably one of the sneakiest things to do would to make do at least a double stack of whichever team you're playing, and then maybe do a second team in, and that's probably the closest you can get to keeping them all on the same slate. But you have to buy players to fit in when our teams are on the showdown slates, and so that was frustrating. You get injuries as well. We had an injury to Marquise Brown, and so we had to sub out of that. Right now, Tua is in concussion. We don't know if he's going to play, and so we would have to buy another quarterback. And so you have to keep putting money in just to get it out, and especially at the core tier, it's really hard unless you're getting really high up. It's really hard to make more than $3-4 a week on a team. And so with that being the issue, you really have to hit it big and hope for no injuries. So we're going to at least pack it up for now with that team, and just kind of come to the conclusion that while it is possible to make money with $50 in the season, at least in my opinion, it's really, really hard. And it's probably better if you just buy a lot of players up front and mix and match throughout the season based on injuries.
Yeah. And it's really important to get in early, right? I guess, this isn't the Ponzi, but with any Ponzonomics, right, the earlier you are and the more you invest early, the better, right? I kept finding myself week to week, keep reinvesting, and, more would print, you take more shots, and, you just have to beat the devaluation of your players, right? And I think the learnings going into next season is just kind of just reinvest for myself going into every week. And further than I thought I would, right? I thought week 8 would be the cutoff point, but then, prices drop. So, it's easier to make more lineups and then, more chances to cash. So, I mean, even min cashing with 11 lineups, right? That gets you $8.25 in the elite contest.
Yep.
So, just, as you take shots, you just kind of naturally start min cashing with some of those.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming in this week. Thank you, Ruthless, for filling in for Poop, and appreciate JJ, Jake, you guys being on here once again on a weekly basis. Hopefully everybody does wonderful this week. One of us takes down another tournament, and come follow us on our socials, Metaverse HQ on Twitter. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you like the content. Come join Metaverse HQ. A great community. A lot of very, very smart people, smarter than I am, that have great advice and have made a lot of money in their respective fields, being able to recognize good plays. And so come on up. Everybody's very friendly. Everybody's very welcoming, and they will happily work with anybody new and welcome you as long as you welcome them. But we will see you guys in week 18. We will be back then. Feel free to message us if you have any questions. And as always, let's make it rain.